The medicine bottle fell from April's purse and rolled across our kitchen floor like a confession in slow motion. I watched it spin, that little orange cylinder with its white cap catching the morning light, and something inside me knew. Maybe I'd known for weeks, maybe longer. But standing there at 7:34 on a Tuesday morning in our cramped San Francisco apartment, watching my girlfriend scramble to shove that bottle back into her bag, her face flushed the color of overripe strawberries and her hands shaking, that's when the knowing became real. That's when the abstract suspicion crystallized into something solid and cold in my chest. "It's just antibiotics," she said, not meeting my eyes. Her voice had that high, tight quality it got when she was lying. "I had a UTI, no big deal." I nodded slowly. Picked up my coffee mug, the one with the faded Genentech logo. Took a sip even though it had gone lukewarm. Went to work like nothing had changed, riding the BART train downtown with my earbuds in, staring at my reflection in the dark window. But everything had changed. We'd been together 3 years. April moved into my apartment 2 years ago, right after I landed the research position at Genentech down in South San Francisco. My parents loved her from the first time I brought her home. My mother already talked about grandchildren, dropping hints about baby names and showing April her own wedding dress, preserved in tissue paper in the attic. My father, who never warmed to anyone, who disapproved of every girlfriend I'd ever had, actually smiled when April walked into a room. He'd pull me aside and say, "Don't let this one get away, son. She's special." I'm Sem, 27 years old, a molecular biologist who spends his days pipetting solutions into tiny wells and running protein assays and staring at computer screens full of genetic sequences. Not exciting, not glamorous, not the kind of work that makes for good cocktail party stories, but steady, reliable. It paid well enough for a decent one-bedroom in the Sunset District and a newer Honda Civic and the occasional weekend trip up to Napa. The kind of guy who remembers anniversaries and keeps the refrigerator stocked and never, ever forgets to text back. The kind of guy mothers approve of. April was 25 and everything I wasn't. Spontaneous, creative. She painted sometimes, these wild, abstract canvases she'd work on at 2 in the morning, and she wrote poetry she never showed anyone, filling notebook after notebook with her cramped handwriting. She changed her hair color every few months, auburn to platinum, to a brief, regrettable phase with pink streaks. When we met at a coffee shop in Berkeley 3 years ago, she was reading Sylvia Plath and wearing a sundress covered in sunflowers, her legs tucked under her in the armchair by the window. I was hooked immediately, completely, stupidly in love before I even knew her name. But lately, maybe the last 6 months, maybe longer, she'd grown distant, distracted. She went out more with her friend Kat, this woman from her old dorm at San Francisco State who treated relationships like subscription services you could cancel anytime. Try it for a month, dump them if you're not satisfied, move on to the next one. Kat had been through 5 boyfriends in the year I'd known her, each one lasting just long enough for her to get bored before she found someone new. She was tall and loud and always wore too much makeup, and I hated the way April acted around her. Younger, wilder, less like the woman I'd fallen for. "You need to live a little," Kat would tell April over drinks at whatever trendy bar they'd discovered that week, her voice carrying across the room while I pretended not to hear. "You're 25, babe. You should be having adventures, not playing house with a guy who's asleep by 10 on Friday nights." I told myself it was just a phase. April was young. She needed space to figure herself out. I gave her that space, stopped asking where she was going or who she was with, stopped suggesting quiet dinners at home in favor of whatever Kat had planned. I thought I was being the understanding boyfriend, the mature one, the one who didn't smother. Now, watching that medicine bottle roll across the floor, I wondered if I'd just been naive. 3 days later, on a Monday evening after work, I invited her to Thanksgiving at my parents' place in San Jose. We were in bed. The bedroom was dark, except for the light from our phones and the yellow glow of the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds. She was scrolling through Instagram, that blue light washing over her face in the darkness, double-tapping photos, and occasionally showing me something she thought was funny. I was reading a journal article about CRISPR applications in gene therapy, trying to keep up with the latest research even though my eyes were tired and the words kept blurring together. "My mom texted," I said, setting my tablet down on the nightstand. "She asked if we're coming Thursday for Thanksgiving." April didn't look up from her phone. "Thanksgiving. At my parents' house in San Jose, like we do every year." She sighed. Actually sighed. This long, put-upon exhale like I'd just asked her to donate a kidney. "I don't know, Sem. Kat's having people over at her place. It might be fun to do something different this year." I felt my chest tighten. Different how? Just, not the same dinner we have every single year. Turkey and stuffing and small talk with your dad about the stock market and your mom asking when we're getting married. "My parents really want to see you. They see me all the time." "It's Thanksgiving, April. It's important to them. To me." She finally looked at me then, and her eyes were hard, defensive. The same look she got when I asked about her credit card bills or why she needed more money. "Why do you always do this? Make me feel guilty for wanting to have my own life?" "I'm not making you feel guilty. I'm asking you to come to Thanksgiving dinner with my family." "You are. You do it all the time. Like I'm some kind of accessory that has to go everywhere with you. Like I don't have my own friends or my own plans." I felt my jaw tighten, that familiar frustration building in my throat. "Fine. Go to Kat's. Do whatever you want." "Don't be like that." "Like what?" "I'm saying go. Have fun with Kat and whoever else is going to be there." God, you're so passive-aggressive. "I'm not being passive-aggressive. I'm being direct. You don't want to come to Thanksgiving, so don't come." She turned away from me, yanking the blanket up higher around her shoulders. "Fine, I won't. Fine." We lay there in silence for a few minutes, the air between us thick and uncomfortable. Finally, she said, "I will, I'll go to Kat's and have a good time." Great. That was Monday. By Wednesday morning, she'd confirmed she definitely wasn't coming to dinner. She barely looked at me when she said it, already halfway out the door with an overnight bag slung over her shoulder and her makeup done more carefully than usual. "Kat's place is closer to the club we're going to," she explained, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror one more time. "I'll probably just crash there. No point coming all the way back here." "What club?" "I don't know the name. Kat's friend is getting us in somewhere in the Mission. Some DJ she knows is spinning. It's supposed to be really good." I was standing in the kitchen doorway, still in my pajama pants, holding a cup of coffee I didn't want anymore. "You're going to a club on Thanksgiving?" "It's just a party, Sem. People still go out on holidays. Not everyone wants to sit around eating turkey and watching football." I wanted to say something, to ask why a club with strangers was more important than dinner with my family, with people who'd known her for years and loved her like she was already part of the family, to ask when she'd become someone who chose parties over people who cared about her. But the words stuck in my throat, heavy and useless. And then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her, leaving me alone in our apartment that suddenly felt too quiet. Thanksgiving at my parents' house was exactly what April had described, and somehow that made it worse. The drive down to San Jose took 90 minutes in traffic. I listened to a true crime podcast to keep my mind occupied, something about a cold case from the 80s, but I kept losing track of the details. My parents' house was a modest ranch style in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and people still brought over casseroles when someone got sick. My father had put up Christmas lights already, even though it was barely past Thanksgiving, those white icicle lights he loved draping across the eaves. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd expected. Turkey in the oven, the smell of sage and onions filling the house. My mother in her apron, fussing over side dishes. My father in his recliner, watching the pregame show with a beer in his hand, occasionally shouting at the television about referee calls. But there was someone else there, too. Melissa Chen from next door. She'd grown up 3 houses down from us, and our families had been close for years. Backyard barbecues and New Year's Eve parties, and that one disastrous camping trip where everyone got food poisoning. She was finishing her residency at Stanford Medical Center, rarely home because of her brutal schedule. But here she was, sitting on the couch in jeans and a cream-colored sweater, laughing at something my father had said. "Sem!" My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She hugged me, then immediately looked past me toward the door. "Where's April?" "She couldn't make it." My mother's face fell. "Oh, is she sick?" "No, she had other plans, with friends." There was a moment of silence, the kind where everyone's thinking the same thing, but nobody wants to say it. Finally, my father grunted from his chair. "Shame. We were looking forward to seeing her." "Me too, Mr. Reeves," Melissa said, standing up to give me a hug. "I was hoping to catch up with her." Melissa was 28, tall and athletic, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. The kind of smart, put-together woman who made hospital residency look easy, even though I knew it wasn't. We'd been friends growing up, the kind of friendship that faded when we went to different colleges, but never quite disappeared. She'd dated a guy named Jason through most of medical school, but I noticed she'd come alone today. Dinner was exactly what April had predicted. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce from a can, because my mother refused to make it from scratch. My father talked about his portfolio and how the tech sector was overvalued. My mother asked about my work and whether I was eating enough vegetables, and had I thought about joining a gym because I looked thin. Standard procedure. But there was also laughter. Stories about Thanksgiving disasters from years past. The time my uncle deep-fried a turkey and nearly burned down the garage. The year my grandmother got drunk on cooking sherry and sang Broadway show tunes until midnight. Melissa fit right in, telling stories about her residency, the absurd things patients said, the dark humor that got her through 18-hour shifts. I realized I was having a good time. Despite everything. Despite the April-shaped absence at the table. After dinner, while my mother was cutting pumpkin pie in the kitchen, Melissa and I ended up on the back porch. The November air was cool but not cold, that perfect California autumn weather where you could get away with just a light jacket. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "So," Melissa said, leaning against the porch railing, "want to talk about it?" "About what?" "Whatever's making you look like someone just ran over your dog, and don't say nothing. I've known you too long." I laughed, despite myself. Melissa had always been direct, cutting through bullshit with surgical precision. Just relationship stuff. Nothing dramatic. The fact that she skipped Thanksgiving seems pretty dramatic to me. She wanted to hang out with her friends. It's not a crime. On Thanksgiving, with your family, who she's known for years. Melissa shook her head. "That's not wanting to hang out with friends, Sem. That's avoiding something." I didn't say anything, just stared out at the darkening sky. Melissa was quiet for a moment, then said, "My ex did that. Jason. Started choosing everything else over time with me. Work drinks, gym sessions, weekend golf trips with guys I'd never met. Said I was being clingy when I asked to spend time together. Turned out he'd been seeing someone from his hospital for 2 months. A nurse named Brittany with perfect teeth and no medical school debt. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I don't think April's cheating. I'm not saying she is. I'm just saying, when someone stops wanting to be around you, there's usually a reason, and it's not usually a good one. Before I could respond, my mother called us back inside for pie. Melissa's mother, Mrs. Chen, had come over for dessert, bringing homemade almond cookies. She immediately insisted on taking photos. "The kids," she kept saying, even though Melissa was a doctor, and I was a scientist, and we were both pushing 30. She positioned us on the couch together. had Melissa put her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling for the camera, while our mothers cooed about how nice we looked together. "You two were always so cute," Mrs. Chen said, showing us the photo on her phone. "Remember when you went to prom together?" "That was junior year," I said. "We went as friends because neither of us had dates." Still, very sweet. She posted the photo to Facebook while we were still standing there. I didn't think anything of it then. Just mothers being mothers, embarrassing their adult children with photos and nostalgia. I should have thought more about it. April came home Friday afternoon around 3, smelling like cigarettes and something else. Some cologne I didn't recognize, heavy and musky, the kind guys wear when they're trying too hard at clubs. "How was your Thanksgiving?" I asked from the kitchen, where I was making coffee and pretending to be casual. "Good. Fun." She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes. She was wearing the same clothes as yesterday, but somehow they looked different, wrinkled, disheveled, like she'd slept in them. "How was your family?" "Fine. They missed you." "That's sweet." She headed toward the bedroom without looking at me. "I'm going to take a shower." She was in there for 40 minutes. When she came out, her skin was red from scrubbing, and her hair was wet, and she still wouldn't meet my eyes. Over the next few days, I started noticing things. Small things that individually meant nothing but together painted a picture I didn't want to see. She was on her phone constantly, but she tilted the screen away from me now. When notifications came through, she'd snatch the phone up immediately, even if she was in the middle of something else. She started going to the gym more. April, who'd always hated exercise, who used to complain about walking the 3 blocks to get groceries, suddenly had a gym membership and was going 4 times a week. She bought new underwear, lacy, expensive stuff from Victoria's Secret, the kind she never wore around me anymore. And she was distant, not just emotionally, physically too. She flinched when I tried to kiss her, made excuses when I initiated intimacy. Too tired, too stressed, not feeling well, always something. On Sunday evening, she went out with Kat again. "Just dinner and drinks," she said. "Girl talk. I'll be back by 11. She came home at 2 in the morning. I was still awake, sitting on the couch in the dark, and she jumped when she saw me. "Jesus, Sem, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark?" "Couldn't sleep. How was dinner?" "Long. We got to talking and lost track of time." "Where'd you go?" "This new place in North Beach. Kat wanted to try it." "What was it called?" She hesitated just a fraction of a second. "I don't remember. Some Italian name." "You just came from there and you don't remember the name?" "I had a few drinks, okay? Sorry I'm not writing down every detail for your interrogation." "I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking about your evening." "Well, it feels like an interrogation." She pushed past me toward the bedroom. "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." I sat there in the dark for another hour, listening to her breathing in the next room, wondering when we'd become people who lied to each other. The next morning, Monday, I did something I'd never done before. I checked our joint bank account. We'd opened it a year ago, pooling our money for rent and utilities and groceries. It was supposed to make things easier, more equitable. I made more than she did. Her job at a graphic design startup was more passion than profit, so I contributed more, but we'd agreed it was our money, shared resources for our shared life. I logged into the account on my lunch break, sitting in the Genentech cafeteria with my laptop, my sandwich untouched beside me. The numbers made my stomach drop. In the last month, April had withdrawn $3,000, not for rent, not for utilities, not for any of the joint expenses we'd agreed on. Just cash withdrawals and charges I didn't recognize. Bars and restaurants I'd never heard of. Uber rides to parts of the city we never went to. A charge at a hotel in the financial district. A hotel. I sat there staring at the screen until my coffee went cold. Then I checked her credit card, the one in her name that I wasn't supposed to have access to, but whose password she'd never changed from when we set it up together. Another $2,000, more restaurants, more bars, a charge at a department store for $600. What the hell had she bought for $600? My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Look what Mrs. Chen posted." It was the photo from Thanksgiving. Me and Melissa on the couch, her arm around me, both of us smiling. Mrs. Chen had written, "These two always knew they'd end up together." I texted back immediately, "Mom, we're not together. I'm with April." "I know, honey. But you two look so happy in this photo, much happier than you've looked lately." I put my phone away and went back to staring at the bank statements, at the evidence of April's double life, spelled out in numbers and charges and lies. That evening, I came home early. April wasn't there. Another outing with Kat, according to the note she'd left on the counter. I stood in our apartment, in the home we'd built together, and looked at it like I was seeing it for the first time. Her paintings on the walls, her books on the shelves, her clothes in the closet, her shampoo in the shower, her coffee mug in the sink. Evidence of our intertwined lives everywhere I looked. And in that moment, I realized I'd been an idiot. A trusting, naive idiot who'd believed that love was enough, that if you were a good person and did the right things and treated someone well, they'd do the same for you. I was wrong. I started investigating in earnest after that. Not because I wanted to, God, I didn't want to, but because I needed to know, needed to see the full picture before I decided what to do next. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. I knew her passcode. We'd never had secrets before, or so I'd thought, and I scrolled through her messages with shaking hands. Most of it was mundane. Texts with Kat about where to meet and which bars had cheap drinks. Messages with her mother about visiting for Christmas. A conversation with her sister about their nephew's birthday. But then I found messages with a number she'd never mentioned. No name attached, just a string of digits. The messages were flirty, suggestive, full of inside jokes I didn't understand and plans to meet up, and, near the bottom, things that made my skin crawl. "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again?" I put the phone back exactly where she'd left it and walked into the living room, sat down on the couch, stared at the wall. April came out of the bathroom 20 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping onto her shoulders. "What's for dinner?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. Someone wearing April's face but hollowed out inside, replaced with someone I didn't recognize. "Not hungry," I said. She shrugged and went to the bedroom to get dressed. That night, while she was asleep, I found her purse. It was sitting on the floor by the couch where she dropped it, and I rifled through it like a criminal, searching for evidence I already knew I'd find. The medicine bottle was in there. I pulled it out carefully, held it up to the dim light from the street. Doxycycline. The prescription was dated 2 weeks ago. The patient name was April's, and the diagnosis code on the label, I looked it up on my phone, was for sexually transmitted infections. She'd lied about the UTI. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, washed my hands in the kitchen sink, even though I hadn't touched anything dirty, stood there in the dark, gripping the counter, breathing slowly through my nose. In the bedroom, April slept peacefully, her face soft and innocent in the moonlight coming through the window. I wanted to wake her up, to throw the bottle at her and demand answers, to scream and break things and make her feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. But I didn't, because I'd learned something important in that moment. Revenge served cold is always more effective than rage served hot. The next day, Tuesday, I took a personal day from work. Told my supervisor I had a medical appointment. Instead, I went to see a lawyer. Her name was Jennifer Park, and she specialized in financial disputes. I'd found her through a quick Google search, picking an office close to downtown, somewhere April would never accidentally see me. "Tell me everything," Jennifer said, sitting across from me in her sleek office with its view of the Bay Bridge. I told her. About the joint account. About the credit card bills. About April moving in 2 years ago. Her name not on the lease. How she'd never contributed equally to rent or utilities, despite claiming she wanted to be independent. Jennifer took notes on her tablet, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "Okay," she said. "First question. Do you want to pursue this legally? Sue her for the money she's taken?" "Can I?" "Possibly. It depends on whether you can prove she took it without your permission and for non-joint expenses. The joint account complicates things. Legally, she had as much right to that money as you did. But the credit card in her name that you were paying off? That's different." "I don't want to sue her," I said. "I just want to cut her off. Close the accounts. Make sure she can't take anything else." Jennifer nodded. "That's simpler. You can close the joint account unilaterally. You'll need to withdraw the funds first, open a new account in just your name. As for the credit card, if it's in her name, you can stop paying it. She'll be responsible for the debt." "What about the apartment? Is she on the lease?" "No, just me." "Then it's your apartment. You can give her 30 days' notice to vacate. California law requires it, even if she's not officially a tenant. After 30 days, if she hasn't left, you can pursue eviction, but it's better if she just leaves." I sat there absorbing all of this, the legal mechanics of dismantling a life together. "One more thing," Jennifer said. "Do you have proof of any of this? The spending, the infidelity?" I showed her screenshots I'd taken of the bank statements and April's text messages. Jennifer reviewed them, her expression professionally neutral. "This is good," she said. "Not necessary for closing accounts, but good to have, just in case things get messy." Things were already messy, but I knew what she meant. I spent the rest of that Tuesday setting things in motion. First, I went to the bank, closed the joint account, withdrew all the remaining funds, about $7,000 after April's spending spree, and opened a new account in just my name. The teller, a young woman with a sympathetic face, didn't ask questions. Then I called the credit card company. Explained that I was no longer responsible for an account in someone else's name that I'd been helping to pay. They transferred the account entirely to April. Her problem now. Finally, I went home and started packing. Not my stuff. Hers. Every piece of clothing in the closet that belonged to her. Every book, every painting, every half-used bottle of shampoo and makeup palette and pair of shoes. I packed it all methodically, carefully, into boxes I'd bought from U-Haul. Labeled each one with a marker. April's clothes, April's books, April's art supplies. It took me 6 hours. By the time I was done, the apartment looked emptier, but also cleaner, like someone had excised a tumor. I called a shipping company, arranged for them to pick up the boxes tomorrow morning and deliver them to Kat's apartment. I'd found the address in April's phone, paid extra for same-day delivery. Then I sat down and wrote a note. Simple. Direct. "April, I know about Trayvon. I know about the hotel. I know about everything. Your things are being delivered to Kat's address. The joint account is closed. The credit card is in your name now. The apartment is mine. You have until December 31st to find somewhere else to live. Don't contact me. We're done. Sem." I left the note on the kitchen counter, weighted down with her keys to the apartment. She'd be home soon, another late night with Kat, and she'd find it. I packed a bag for myself, clothes, toiletries, my laptop, called my parents. "Can I stay with you for a few days?" I asked my mother. "Of course, honey. Is everything okay?" "No, but it will be." I was pulling out of the parking garage when I saw April getting out of an Uber half a block away. She was laughing, her head thrown back, talking on her phone. She didn't see me. I drove away without looking back. My mother didn't ask questions when I arrived at 10 that night, just pulled me into a hug and showed me to my old bedroom. My father, more perceptive than he usually let on, squeezed my shoulder and said, "You did the right thing, son. Whatever it is, you did the right thing." I slept 12 hours straight. When I woke up, my phone was full of messages. April. What the fuck is this? April. You can't just kick me out. April. Call me, we need to talk. April. Sem, please, this is crazy. April. You're being insane. I can explain everything. April. My parents are calling you. You better answer. I deleted them all without responding. There were also 3 missed calls from April's mother, Linda. I stared at her name on my screen for a long moment, then called her back. Sem. Linda's voice was tight. April tells me you kicked her out. What's going on? Did she tell you why? A pause. She said you had some kind of misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, Linda. April's been cheating on me, spending money from our joint account on hotels and dates with another man. I found text messages. I found the prescription for the STD she gave me. Silence. Then, quietly. Oh my God. I'm not trying to hurt her, I said. But I'm not going to keep supporting someone who treats me like this. She has until the end of December to find her own place. Her things are at Kat's apartment. I've closed our joint accounts. I'm done. Sem, Linda's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Her father and I, we really thought you two would get married. So did I. Would you be willing to talk to her? With us there? Maybe if we all sit down? No, I'm sorry, Linda. I know you and Dave are good people, but I can't. April made her choices. Now she has to live with them. Linda was crying softly on the other end. You were so good to her. You were so good for her. I don't understand why she'd throw that away. Neither do I. After I hung up, I blocked April's number. Then Kat's. Then, after a moment's hesitation, Trayvon's, the unsaved number from April's phone that I'd memorized without meaning to. I felt lighter, emptier, but lighter. The next week was a blur. I went back to work, threw myself into my research. My co-workers noticed I seemed different, but nobody asked why. Science was good for that. You could lose yourself in protocols and data, in problems that had solutions if you just worked hard enough. Melissa texted me on Monday. My mom told me what happened. I'm sorry. If you need to talk, I'm here. We met for coffee on Wednesday evening, a place in Palo Alto, halfway between her hospital and my parents' house. How are you holding up? She asked. I'm okay. Angry mostly. Stupid for not seeing it sooner. You're not stupid. You trusted her. That's not a character flaw. Feels like one right now. Melissa stirred her coffee, watching me. Jason, my ex? When I found out about Brittany, I felt the same way. Like I should have known. Like there must have been signs I missed because I was too dumb, or too distracted, or too desperate to keep believing everything was fine. What helped? Time. Therapy. Realizing that his cheating said nothing about me and everything about him. She smiled wryly. Also, I heard through the hospital grapevine that Brittany dumped him 3 months later. Apparently he was bad at relationships with everyone, not just me. I laughed despite myself. That does help a little. The best revenge is living well, Sem. I know that's a cliché, but it's true. You're young, smart, employed, not hideous to look at. High praise. And now you're free of someone who didn't appreciate any of that. Trust me, 6 months from now, you'll be fine. A year from now, you'll be better than fine. I wanted to believe her. December 1st, April's parents came to talk to me. I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a park in San Jose, public enough that nobody could cause a scene. They arrived together, Linda and Dave Morrison, looking older than I remembered. Linda had been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. Dave looked grim. Thank you for seeing us, Linda said as we sat down on a bench near the playground. Of course. Dave cleared his throat. We talked to April, about everything. She admitted she told us about the other man, about the money, about lying to you. I didn't say anything, just waited. We're not here to make excuses for her, Linda said. What she did was wrong, unforgivable. We raised her better than that. We raised her to be honest, Dave added, to be responsible, to treat people with respect. Somewhere along the way, she forgot that. Or chose to ignore it, I said quietly. Dave nodded. Or that. We just wanted you to know, Linda said, reaching across to take my hand, that we don't blame you for any of this. You were wonderful to our daughter. You were exactly the kind of man we hoped she'd end up with. And she threw that away for what? Some excitement? Some stupid thrill? Her voice broke. Dave put his arm around her. We told her, Dave said, that she made the biggest mistake of her life, that she had a good man who loved her, who would have done anything for her, and she destroyed that. We told her not to expect any help from us. She made this mess. She has to clean it up. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that, but acknowledgement. These people who'd welcomed me into their family, who'd treated me like a son, were choosing to stand with me instead of blindly defending their daughter. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. For what it's worth, Linda said, I think you'll find someone better. Someone who deserves you. And April. April's going to spend a long time regretting what she lost. We talked for another 20 minutes. About logistics, about April's plans to move back to her parents' place temporarily, about how they hoped we could all be civil, even if we couldn't be family anymore. When we parted ways, Linda hugged me tight. Take care of yourself, Sem, she whispered. You deserve to be happy. Christmas came and went. I spent it with my parents and Melissa, who'd become a more regular presence in my life. Not romantic, neither of us was ready for that, but comfortable, easy, the kind of friendship that didn't require performance. On December 30th, I went back to the apartment for the first time in a month. April had moved out 2 weeks earlier, according to the text from her mother. I needed to see it, to reclaim it. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it, minus all traces of April. The walls where her paintings had hung were blank. The bookshelf had gaps where her books had been. The bathroom counter was empty of her makeup and lotions. I walked through each room slowly, methodically. The bedroom felt larger without her clothes crowding the closet. The kitchen seemed cleaner without her half-finished cups of tea cluttering the counter. The living room looked spare but honest, no longer pretending to be something it wasn't. On the kitchen counter, I found an envelope, my name written on it in April's handwriting. I almost threw it away without opening it. Almost. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page, covered in her cramped script. Sem, I know you won't read this. I know you probably threw it away the second you saw my handwriting, but I need to write it anyway, even if it's just for me. You were right about everything. I did cheat. I did lie. I did take your money and your trust and everything you gave me, and I threw it away for someone who didn't matter. Trayvon was nothing. He was exciting for about 5 minutes, and then he was just another guy who wanted something from me. When everything fell apart, when you kicked me out and closed the accounts, he disappeared, blocked my number, told me he didn't want drama. Kat tells me I'm the victim here, that you were controlling and manipulative, and I was just trying to find myself. But I know that's bullshit. You gave me everything, and I wanted more. I wanted the stability of you and the excitement of someone new, and I thought I could have both. I was selfish and stupid, and I destroyed the best thing in my life. My parents won't speak to me. They're letting me stay in their guest room, but they look at me like I'm a stranger. My mom cries when she thinks I can't hear. My dad won't even look at me. They loved you more than they love me right now, and I can't blame them. I got tested again. I'm clean now, if you were wondering, if you were worried. The antibiotics worked, but I keep thinking about how I could have given you something permanent, how I risked your health because I was too selfish to just break up with you honestly. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did. I know what I lost. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life knowing that I had someone who loved me completely, and I destroyed it for nothing. I hope you find someone better. Someone who deserves you. Someone who won't be stupid enough to take you for granted. I'm sorry. For everything. April. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and threw it in the trash. Some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone with words on paper. I took out my phone and deleted her contact information. Every text thread, every photo, every trace of her from my digital life. It felt like lancing a wound, painful but necessary. Then I called Melissa. "Hey," she answered. "How's the apartment?" "Empty, clean, mine again." "Good, that's good. How are you feeling?" I looked around at the blank walls, the empty spaces, the home I was reclaiming. "Lighter," I said, ready to move forward. "Want to grab dinner? Celebrate your freedom?" "Yeah, that sounds perfect." New Year's Eve, I threw a party. Nothing elaborate, just a few friends from work, Melissa and some of her colleagues from the hospital, my parents, a couple of neighbors. We crammed into my apartment with cheap champagne and grocery store snacks, watching the countdown on TV. At 11:58, Melissa found me on the balcony. I was looking out at the city, at the lights spreading out below us like grounded stars. "Big year ahead," she said, leaning against the railing beside me. "Hopefully better than this one. Definitely better than this one. You've already hit rock bottom. Nowhere to go but up." Optimistic. Realistic. She turned to face me. "You know what I realized? About Jason? About that whole disaster?" "What?" "It wasn't really about him cheating. I mean, it was, but that wasn't the part that hurt most. It was realizing I'd been in love with an idea of him, not the actual person. I'd built up this version of us in my head, the perfect medical power couple, both of us saving lives and coming home to each other, and I ignored all the signs that he wasn't interested in that. I ignored reality because the fantasy was better. I thought about that. About April. About the woman I'd thought she was versus the woman she'd actually been. I did the same thing. I was so busy being the good boyfriend that I didn't notice she'd stopped being a good girlfriend. Maybe for months. We see what we want to see, until we can't anymore. Inside, people started counting down. 10, 9, 8. "New year, new start," Melissa said. "New year, new start," I echoed. At midnight, everyone cheered. Champagne corks popped. Someone turned up the music. Melissa hugged me, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger or hurt or betrayal. I felt hope.